The president said right from the start of his speech that the problems with the South African economy are deeply structural. Now, what Minister Motsoaledi just spoke about there on the question of both visas but also critical skills is something that has been going on for years and years now, and there seems to be no progress. And here's my point. There were several areas that were identified as those, if we were to move with speed in dealing with some of the blockages, we will unlock a great deal of the potential of our economy. And we're talking here about something that are things that are within our own government's means, whether it's e-visas that we've been talking about for years, whether it is the question of spectrum, which we seem to have still have a problem with, and there's hardly been any movement. Those are the sort of things one would have thought we would have moved on by now, and wouldn't still years on or years down the line we would still be talking saying the same things we were saying 5-6 years ago.
Yes, indeed, Vuyo. I think the president put it correctly. If I remember, he said unacceptable delays in the immigration to the spectrum, for example. It is the lack of capacity within government institution to be able to deliver. The fact that you have a willingness at a political level, which I'm not sure at what level, because you get ministers who are overzealous and they move on, you get others who reprioritize and they are no longer prioritizing one program over the other. Even at Home Affairs, the same thing. 5 years ago, we were talking about these e-visas, but the minister that was there immediately after that was not interested in that. So you find that political will plays a bigger role in whether government will implement a particular program or not. Even when the president puts it on the table, because some of them, the president has already put them on the table in the previous SONAs, but the fact that ministers were not politically willing to champion these programs, they then do not progress at all. The second issue is the issue of capacity within the public sector itself. The kind of people that we have in the public sector are either demotivated or do not have the capacity to deliver on the programs of government. And that's one thing that we need to beef up. We need to have a skills audit in the public sector to look at whether we have the right skills, we have the right people in right positions within the public sector to deliver on some of these grand plans. We are talking about revitalization of the ports now. I can tell you now, if we don't have the right skills, the private sector that we say must partner with government is going to take over, because they are going to bring skills, they are going to bring knowledge, they are going to bring resources, and government would have to look at that to ensure that they play their role.
One of the things, though, that is quite clear as we talk about the ports is that the state of the railway lines has been allowed to deteriorate up until this point. And the president talking about the rehabilitation of these railway lines, and I mean even going as far as saying you've got fresh produce that gets stuck, for days at terminals, and this is not good because Transnet needs a bit more support. But it also begs the question, looking at what we've seen happening in our parastatals that are responsible for the railway lines, it has been one of those that is unfortunately a disappointment, because the deterioration did not happen overnight.
Yes, it is indeed a sad state. If you talk about our rail infrastructure, I mean, we are going one step forward and 3 steps backwards. So we invest in the infrastructure, we then do not maintain that infrastructure. We actually lose that investment, and that is very sad. And I have not heard the president, he said we need to revitalize that sector. But as to specifically what we need to do, especially in the rail sector, it was not very clear for me. And I don't think even Transnet is clear about where they want to go. In fact, it is not very clear where they want to go, whether they want to revitalize the local structures that they have, or whether they want to attract more investment, more private public investment in that sector, which would make sense in the short term to do that. So I'm not really sure.
And I think that's where we are going to leave it from our makeshift studio here just outside the Cape Town City Hall, where this year's State of the Nation address was held for reasons, of course, we all know, following that fire that started on the 2nd of January and gutted down most of the Parliament's precinct. From me, Vuyo Mvogo.
And me, Bongiwe Zwane. We are, of course, signing out, Vuyo, and throwing to our colleagues who have done a sterling job on the ground. Samgele Masego, Bulelani Philip, as well as Natasha Piri. From us, good night.
Well, indeed, the State of the Nation address has come and gone. Promises have been made. Whether they'll be lived and kept up to, South Africans will judge. We were here last year, the year before. Dreams were told and sold. Nothing happened.
Well, thank you so much, Samgelo. We've been out here, colleagues, from early in the morning, covering the State of the Nation address. Not only that, the glitz and the glam of the red carpet, where they hit, where they miss. But Bulelani, what are your main takeaway points from the President's State of the Nation address?
Well, look, colleagues, I mean, there's been a lot of takeaway points for me, but I think the biggest one that will have an impact to a lot of poor South Africans is the extension of this 350 social distress grant. I think it will go a long way in terms of assisting government, in terms of alleviating poverty. But at the same time, I think it must be a welcome move that the President has committed himself to this comprehensive social security reform. Whether they're going to meet that 100 days deadline, it's neither here or there for now. But of course, he stopped short of announcing what was expected to be an announcement on this basic income grant. Of course, what he's arguing is that that kind of social security net should also be considered within the financial means of government. So I think in the long run, on the social security front, perhaps maybe they are on the right path. But of course, as you've said, Samgele, the proof is going to be in the pudding as well as delivery.
Well, yes, indeed, Bulelani, the basic income grant is the most important takeout point, particularly when you look at the high levels of unemployment, poverty and inequality in the country. You look at how the economy is basically tanking and on the verge of being crippled. You look at how this speech was largely around the security, social net, and also reviving the economy of the country, which speak to the basic issues that are led by the governing party and them addressing it in their January 8th statement. But the proof is in the pudding, as you said, and also action. The state security, the security cluster, the police promising huge reforms. That comment by Pegicel, Kehlas Toll. Ooh, a lot is going to happen.
Yeah, I can see that. From us here in Cape Town, outside the Cape Town City Hall, my name is Bulelani Philip.
My name is Natasha Piri, and thank you so much for letting us into your households and your living rooms.
My name is Samkela Masego, and next year we'll be back here again, but to monitor the progress on the commitments and the promises made, the revival and the firing and hiring and making sure that the security cluster works and that national security is restored.